Hola estudiantes, buenas tardes, good afternoon. Sorry I can't be in class with you, but Miss Cantu will be in class with you today, and she's going to be a great sub for y'all. You, in return, need to be the best students for her. I don't want to hear a bad report from y'all. I want to hear that y'all were excellent. So make sure you're on your absolute best behavior. All right, today you're going to be taking notes on notebook paper. So get the notebook paper out now while I kind of give you a preview of the things we're going to be taking notes over today. They're going to be hopefully quick notes. So the first topic is going to be to versus usted. Then we're going to cover greetings, questions, goodbyes, numbers, and then we're going to cover reminders and other business. Okay, so you need to have that piece of notebook paper out. Remember, notebook paper. We're not taking notes in our journal today. All right, so starting out, to versus usted. In Spanish, we have two forms of the singular form of you. So remember, you is what you use when you're talking directly to one person. All right, in Spanish, the two forms are tú and usted. Repitan, tú, usted. All right, tú is the familiar form of you. Use this with people you can appropriately call by their first name. So it's going to be with people that you're friends with, that are your peers, certain family members, and people who are younger than you. Usted is the polite form or the formal form of you. You generally use usted with people that you need to address by a title and their last name. So people you would use usted with are authority figures, people who are older than you, and then again, people that you address with a title like Mr., Mrs., Doctor, Officer, Principal, so on and so forth. One thing I want you to note about usted is this is the full written out version of the word usted, and this is the abbreviation for it, usted. It's the same, but it's more common to see it in this format, in the abbreviated form, than in the full spelled out form. Okay, so again, to is what you use with your friends and people you can call by their first name. Usted is what you use with authority figures, people that you have to address with a title, generally people you refer to by their last name. All right, so let's take a look at the next page and see if we would use to or usted with these people. All right, so the first one, your dad. Your dad is, it really depends upon your family dynamic. If you have, a more informal family, then you would use to with your dad. If your family is more formal with each other, you would use usted. You probably definitely use usted if you were in trouble. All right, the next one, your teacher. For your teacher, they're older than you, they're authority figure. You should definitely use usted. All right, next one down, your little sister. Your little sister is somebody who's younger than you, who is a family member that you can address by their first name, so you would use to. All right, the next one, your doctor. If your doctor's last name is Smith and you call them Dr. Smith, then you're addressing them by their title and their last name, so you should use usted. All right, the next one, Mr. McMullen. You have a title and a last name, big clue that you're going to use usted. The next one, your classmates. Your classmates are your peers, people that you call by their first names, so with them you would use to. All right, the next one, your grandmother. Again, this really depends upon your family dynamics. If you were in Mexico, you wouldn't dare address your grandmother with to. Or if you were in any other Spanish-speaking country, you would definitely use usted with your grandmother. It's a sign of respect. It's another thing because they're older than you, you would use usted with your grandmother. All right, the next one, your best friend. Your best friend is somebody that you can address with their first name. They're your peer, so you would use to. All right, the next one, Officer Westbrook. Officer Westbrook is a police officer, so he's an authority figure. You're addressing him with his title, which is officer, and his last name, Westbrook. So in this case, you would definitely want to go with usted. And the last one, the mayor. Now, I don't have a specific mayor on here, but just mayor in general. If you're talking to the city mayor, you're generally going to address them by mayor plus their last name, which gives you a big clue that you're going to use usted. All right? Unless the mayor is like your brother or your cousin, then you'll probably call them too. All right, moving on. Greetings. So let's go through these greetings. You should repeat after me. Repitan. Buenos días. Buenas noches. Buenas tardes. Hola. ¿Cómo te llamas? Me llamo. Encantado. Encantada. Igualmente. Mucho gusto. Señor. Señora. Señorita. Okay, so the first four on here are all greetings, way you say hello, just acknowledge somebody. The fifth one, ¿Cómo te llamas? That's how you ask somebody what their name is. You guys know to introduce yourself or to tell somebody your name, you use the phrase me llamo followed by your name. So, for example, me llamo Sanders-Elwell. All right. When you're meeting somebody new, it's traditional that you say something nice like nice to meet you or delighted, pleased to meet you, something of the sort. So our phrases for that are encantado, encantada. So you'll notice that you have one that ends in an O and one that ends in an A. It has to do with something that they have in Spanish called gender. So what you need to know for now is that if you're a boy, you're going to use encantado. If you're a girl, you're going to use encantada. Okay? Another phrase you can use to say nice to meet you is the phrase mucho gusto. Now this one you don't have to change based on your gender. You use it just in that format. Then the next phrase, igualmente. This is something that you can use. Let's say you meet somebody and they're like, oh, nice to meet you. Well, you don't want to say nice to meet you back because it's a little bit repetitive. So instead you would say something like igualmente, which means likewise or the same. Okay? Down at the bottom, sorry, the three, the three titles, we have señor, señora, and señorita. Right after them, you have the abbreviation for each one. They're generally followed by a period, just like our Mr., Mrs., and Miss. Well, we don't follow Miss with a period. Señora and señora also double as sir and ma'am. And then the difference between señora and señorita that you need to know is señora is generally used for women who are married, who are older, who have children. Señorita is generally what we use for unmarried younger female as a title. Okay, moving on. All right, repitan. ¿Cómo está usted? ¿Cómo estás? ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué tal? ¿Y tú? ¿Y usted? Muy bien. Regular. Así, así. Mal. Gracias. All right, so here we have 3 different ways to ask how are you. Now, thinking back to usted and tú, this first question, ¿Cómo está usted?, is in the formal register. This is what, again, you use with people that you would talk to in the usted form, people that you would address by their title and their last name. ¿Cómo estás? After estás, I could put a tú in there, but it's really not necessary. I could say, ¿Cómo estás tú? And that would show you. I'm going to leave the two out because it's easier that way. But that's the informal way to say how are you. ¿Qué tal is also informal. That fall under the same category as ¿Cómo estás? All right. Then we have the question, ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa means what's happening. Well, you don't really have a good response here for ¿Qué pasa? So I'm going to give you one, and I hear it a lot with the kids. Yes. ¿Qué pasa? And their response, nada, nothing, right? What's happening? Nothing. So, nada. That's a good answer for that. All right. So if you have a conversation with somebody and you're asking, ¿Cómo estás? How are you? And they respond to you, well, they're going to turn the question around to you, but instead of asking ¿Cómo estás again, they're going to shorten it and they're going to use the phrase, repitan, ¿Y tú? Or ¿Y usted? Depending on who you are to them. So, or you can use the same thing. If somebody asks you first, ¿Cómo estás? You respond to them and then you turn the question around. ¿Y tú? ¿Y usted? And it just means you. So ways that you can respond to the question, ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo está usted? ¿Qué tal? You could say muy bien, very good, or you could leave muy off and just say bien. Then you have the phrase regular. We don't really use regular. It sounds weird. That's not really commonly used. It's what the textbook uses, but instead we'll learn así así. You need to add así así to your notes because it is not in your handout and you're going to have to put it on there. Así así just means so or okay. So you need to add that on your notes. Make sure you put an accent mark over the I's on both of them. I don't have them here, but you need them. All right. The next one, mal. You need to also add mal to your to your list because it's not on there. So add that on there. And then last but not least, gracias. Generally, when somebody asks how you are, it's natural to respond to them, to say thank you, and then ask about them. So for example, in English we'd say, hey, how are you? Oh, good, thanks. And you? Okay, so in Spanish it would sound like, ¿Cómo estás? Bien, gracias. ¿Y tú? So, that's common, so you would need that in this case. All right, now our despedidos are our ways to say goodbye. Repitan, adiós, hasta luego, hasta mañana, nos vemos. Okay, so adiós just meaning bye or goodbye. Hasta luego and hasta mañana, both starting with that word hasta. Remember that the H is silent, so we don't pronounce that. And then nos vemos is just plain see you. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our numbers. Numbers 40 through 50. We got up to number 40 on Friday, but we're going to continue on 41 through 50. So repitan 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. Alright, so 40 follows the same pattern that 30 did, which is really nice because you just need the tens digit followed by E, followed by the numbers 1 through 9. Okay, so it makes it a lot easier to do these. You don't have to mush them together and worry about changing this or that or accent marks. They stay just like this. So another thing I want you to pay attention to is look at the word cuatro. It has connections with the word quad meaning 4. So notice how cuatro starts with that qua, like in quad, and so does 40. So also having to do with 4. So that's our tens digit and that's our ones digit. Look at 50. That's connected with cinco. They are very similar at the beginning, and cinco means 5, so it's easy to remember that 50 means 50 because they both start with cinc. Right? Alright, reminders and other business. Numbers 0 through 40, the 3 times each that you got last week, they're due tomorrow for the regular 100. If you want the bonus 30%, they are due today, so you need to turn them into the baskets by my desk. Also, today Miss Cantu is going to give you 2 handouts. The first one is going to be the greetings. You need to add así así and mal to that greetings list. Trim it down and go ahead and glue it on page 19 of your notebook. Then you're going to get the tú versus usted notes from Mrs. Cantu, and those you need to do the bottom of the page where you have to tell whether you use tú or usted for each of those people, and you're going to trim that down, and those are going to go on page 20 of your notebook. Now this Friday you have a test over the alphabeto, numbers 0 to 50, colors, classroom objects, to versus usted, greetings. You need to start studying for that now. The quizzes weren't too bad on Friday. Some are really, really good, and there was a few that were maybe not as good. You really need to go over that alphabeto and those numbers. Go to my YouTube channel, watch the alphabeto videos, watch the numbers videos, and practice those. One thing that I really want to suggest to you guys is that you make vocab flashcards where you put the Spanish on one side, the English on the other. For when you first start going through them, you start looking at the Spanish side, and let's say you have the flashcard hola. So you look at hola and you go, oh, what is this in English? And you go, oh, hello. Okay, well, I remember that. Once you start getting better at all the flashcards, then you flip them over and start on the English side and see if you can produce the Spanish, because that's our main goal, is to be able to produce the Spanish. So you would go through them on the English side and you see hello and you're like, okay, how do I say hello in Spanish? Oh, I say hola. So that would be good practice for you. Also, some of you weren't in class on Friday, so you need to get with your classmates and copy the classroom objects from their notebooks. They have it on page 17. So you guys who were there Friday, please share with your classmates who were going on Friday and make sure they get those from you. All right. Also, Cultura 1, that was due on Friday. If you're absent Friday, you need to get that into the box, or to the class box. But I'm missing it from several people who were present on Friday, and now those are late, and if they're not turned in today, they're going to be a 0. So they're already minus 30%. So if you don't get them in today, they're going to be a 0. Guys, if you don't even have them all the way completed, even if you have a few words on there, something is better than nothing. Please turn them in. All right, number 5, I still have not received signed rule sheets from several people. Guys, I gave those out the first day of school. We are now on the 3rd week of school, so I need those in immediately. Those are worth a grade. You need to look through your folder, your backpacks, make sure you turn them in. I have posted grades online. I posted the rule sheets, the cultura, the quiz, and if you've turned in numbers 0 through 40 already, then those are posted on there. If you notice, if you go online and look at your grades, check everything, make sure it looks good. If you notice that, hey, I turned in my numbers already and I don't have a grade here, well, then it's likely that maybe, put your name on your paper. I know I had a couple from 5th and 7th periods that didn't have names on the paper, so you need to make sure that you see me when I'm back on Thursday. All right. Last but not least, Ms. Cantu is going to give you your 3 times each for numbers 40 through 80. You only have to do 40 through 50 today, 3 times each. You need to get those 2 papers into your notebook, and you need to keep hold of these notes. Other than that, I hope you have a great day. Make sure you're on your best behavior for Mrs. Cantu. She will let me know how you do, good or bad. The thing that I have for you is that if I get a good report, then that means rewards for you guys. It could be bonus points or extra game days, stuff of the sort. All right, so have a great afternoon, and I'll see you Thursday. Adios.